Shutdown relief for the Coast Guard. The San Diego Food Bank reaches out to military families who aren't getting paid.
Together, we're going to transform San Diego into a YIMBY city.
Yes, in my backyard. Mayor Kevin Faulconer uses the State of the City address to urge San Diego to do more to solve the housing crisis.
That is not solidarity. That's exploitation. They are exploiting migrants to make a political point.
And how fringe groups are using asylum seekers as a political tool at the border. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Laying out his vision for 2019, San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer delivered his State of the City speech last night. In a moment, we'll talk about the takeaways with KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen. But first, let's hear from the mayor and what he had to say about homelessness, climate change, and other issues facing San Diego.
This year, we mark San Diego's 250th anniversary. We grew into the vibrant city we are today with ideas that were big, bold, and groundbreaking. And it's that same spirit we need to tap into at this moment to take advantage of new opportunities and meet 21st century challenges. This year, we will open San Diego's new Housing Navigation Center, centralizing homeless services under one roof to connect folks to a permanent home. We will deploy more outreach workers into neighborhoods outside of downtown to help people come in off the streets and accept supportive services. And we will move even more people into permanent living conditions by hiring new housing experts at the bridge shelters. And let me say, I understand that some San Diegans may fear homeless programs and affordable housing coming to their community. But we cannot let fear control our actions. Saying not in my backyard is saying yes to homelessness in our canyons, our parks, and on our streets. San Diego lost its biggest funding source for affordable housing when Sacramento took away California's redevelopment program 7 years ago. And it's one reason why I'm so passionate about the Citizens Initiative to create San Diego's first dedicated revenue stream for housing, homeless solutions, and other city priorities. So as is the State of the City tradition, I'm going to talk about the convention center for a moment. I'm excited that the initiative to provide billions to reduce homelessness, as well as repair our roads and modernize and expand the San Diego Convention Center, is finally, without question, headed to a public vote. It's been a marathon, not a sprint, ladies and gentlemen. We need to build more housing near employment centers and transit. So I'm pleased to announce the next phase of Housing SD to remove the anti-housing bias that kills development before it even starts. For example, height limits outside the coastal zone put a cap on housing. This year, I'll propose the council remove them. Outdated parking requirements. Outdated parking requirements make homes more expensive. This year, I will call on the council to eliminate them. Projects intended to house the homeless are subject to countless hearings and appeals. This year, I will introduce legislation to allow developers to build without any unnecessary review, and I will deliver a plan to the council to authorize unlimited density for developments that include affordable housing and housing for the homeless, the most generous incentive in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, obstructionists must never again be able to halt the housing that San Diego needs. For decades, San Diegans have only had one option where they got their electricity. Community choice will change that by injecting healthy competition into the marketplace, allowing customers to benefit from lower energy costs and pick greener energy sources to power their homes or business. And we're going to bring the entire region along with us. Next month, I will ask the City Council to say yes to community choice with a resolution to create a joint powers authority separate from the city to supply renewable power. And then we will invite the county and other cities to join us so we can provide the same choice to customers throughout the entire San Diego region. I've assembled our region's top leaders to do more than talk about it, and for the first time, draw up concrete plans to make it happen by designing and securing funding for this transformational economic development opportunity that will connect commerce, transportation networks, and our entire region. We will build what the world's major cities already have and what America's finest city deserves: a state-of-the-art transportation hub that will finally connect the trolley to the airport.
Andrew, as KPBS's Metro reporter, you've covered a number of State of the City addresses over the years. How did last night's speech compare to past years?
I would say that the overall tone in Faulconer's speech was more ambitious, and it was actually more progressive. So I think Faulconer is entering 2019 in a very different political environment than he has been in years past.
What solutions did he offer, for instance, when it comes to getting more people off of the streets and out of shelters and into permanent housing?
Yeah, so homelessness, he said, is the big issue in San Diego, and I think that's certainly the case for a lot of people who live here, who see more homeless people living in their neighborhoods and in our parks and canyons. He said, he's going really all in on what he calls his Housing Navigation Center. So this is a building in the East Village where he says it would be a one-stop shop for people who are living on the streets to connect with social services and be placed on a wait list, usually, for permanent housing. He also says he wants to streamline the development process for new housing construction to get people out of homelessness. And he's really also urging the council to continue funding the bridge shelters. So these are 3 shelters that are providing some safe and clean and dignified living conditions for people who were previously living on the streets. They've been very expensive, and they've had some pretty mixed results, and there's been some resistance among Democrats to keep on paying for them. So he's saying, don't cut the funding. We need to continue this solution because it's really helping people.
When it comes to development, the mayor talked about red tape and cutting through that red tape. What does he say, or what is he suggesting to help do that?
Yeah, so these are where I think we've seen some of the biggest and boldest proposals from Faulconer's speech last night on the issue of housing and the housing supply. He wants to eliminate height restrictions on new construction of new homes in areas that are close to public transit. And this would be very ambitious and a big change from the current rules, because when you have a height limit of, say, 30 feet, it's very difficult to fit enough homes into that piece of land for a developer to make profit and for the city to overall increase the overall supply of housing when you have these really restrictive height limits. He also wants to allow for unlimited density, so developers could build really, really compact housing developments if they include a certain percentage of their units, of their homes, for low-income folks and people who are trying to exit homelessness. These are proposals that are likely to face a lot of resistance from people, especially homeowner groups, but we have a clip here from Mayor Faulconer, and I think he says at least that he's ready to take those groups on.
These changes represent a complete rethinking about how we deal with housing. We must change from a city that shouts, "Not in my backyard," to one that proclaims, "Yes, in my backyard." From a city of NIMBYs to a city of YIMBYs.
So that YIMBY term, it's really part of a movement across the state of California, and it's the answer to this extreme housing crisis that the state is facing. They want to build more housing, and they just want to say, yes, yes in my backyard.
Andrew Bowen, thank you so much for following this story for us.
Thanks, Ebony.
A local congressman considered to be a likely candidate for San Diego mayor says he won't enter the race. Scott Peters says he will seek another term in Congress in 2020. The announcement comes just days after two other prominent Democrats, Todd Gloria and Barbara Bree, launched their campaigns for mayor. Peters says he believes there are more opportunities to advance San Diego's priorities as a member of the House Democratic majority. It's now day 26 of the partial government shutdown, and local military families are getting help from the San Diego Food Bank. A distribution was set up today in National City to help Coast Guard families. While the Coast Guard is part of the military, its funding comes from the Department of Homeland Security. That's one of the departments impacted by the shutdown. The San Diego Food Bank gave out 7 tons of groceries and 6,000 diapers at today's event. This year's State of the Union speech might not happen. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is telling President Trump to reschedule or deliver it in writing. Pelosi says security is an issue because the Secret Service is not receiving pay. The speech is scheduled for January 29th. Speaker Pelosi says the shutdown will have to end this week in order to hold the speech on that date. As the president continues his fight for a border wall, some Americans are flocking to the migrant caravan in Tijuana for very different reasons. KPBS border reporter Jean Guerrero has the story.
Call me a racist all the time. They call me a bandida. They say I'm against my own people.
Paloma Zuniga is a U.S. and Mexican citizen known as Paloma for Trump. She's at a migrant shelter in Tijuana, making Facebook Live videos about the people she's characterized to her 49,000 Facebook followers as invaders. One man gets angry.
Because I can film you as well. Would you like me to film you?
Zuniga finds a Honduran man she's met before, who has plans to go home. He says he needs money to buy bus tickets for his 2 friends to join him.
I was walking, he approached me, he asked me for my help.
She tells him she loves his message and that she's going to ask her followers to help him. Zuniga sells Make Tijuana Great Again baseball caps.
Good afternoon, guys. How is everybody doing?
And posts multiple times a day to Facebook. She spreads conspiracy theories and xenophobia against the migrants, falsely telling people a photo of a mother running from tear gas was staged. Zuniga says she's not against all the migrants, just the ones who break the law.
No hacerlo de manera ilegal, hacerlo de manera, de buena manera.
And while thousands of these Central Americans want asylum, Zuniga says most don't deserve it.
The bottom line is that each country should take care of its own people.
Zuniga was part of a confrontation against the caravan in the fall. Rocks and punches were thrown. The far-right group Oath Keepers has also put out a call to action online to send militants to the border to keep the caravan out. But the border is attracting other kinds of activists, too.
I advocate for an end to borders. And again, that's just me personally.
Evan Duke is an anti-fascist and a social justice activist who came from Seattle with a handful of other left-wing activists to offer protection and aid to the migrants.
When right-wing hate groups threaten to march on refugees, we're going to do a call out to the community for people to come and stand in support of them and put our bodies in front of them if they're threatened.
Duke says things have gotten tense.
We've been receiving death threats on Facebook. Here's one now from Jose Opuerto out of San Diego. It says, just know that I'll be close behind your agitators and I will kill you if you get too comfortable.
Duke and several other activists went to the same shelter Paloma for Trump had visited to document the fact that migrants were being evicted by authorities.
So this is a mural for all of the deported veterans?
We spoke to one of them later at the border. This is Brendan Tucker from Canyon Lake, Texas.
And I believe in cleaning up our own mess, and this is a mess that we created in the first place.
He came to Tijuana to cook for asylum seekers after learning that the U.S. contributed to unrest in Central America by backing military coups and sending guns. Tucker was at the border on New Year's Day when more than 100 migrants tried to cross the border illegally and were tear-gassed by Border Patrol.
But we had nothing to do with helping people cross. We had nothing to do with organizing it. All we did was come up to witness, document, and deliver medical aid.
Some American activists are openly encouraging migrants to jump the fence. BAM, By Any Means Necessary, is a U.S.-based group distributing flyers telling migrants to storm the border. We spoke to the national director, Shanta Driver, by phone.
Getting across the border by any means necessary is absolutely the right thing to do. We urge and encourage people to take mass action.
She says it's unsafe for migrants to be in Tijuana amid record violence. But attorney Erica Pinedo disagrees.
Waiting in Tijuana is not the same as trying to cross a smuggling route that is controlled by organized crime.
She says BAM is putting lives in danger and compromising good humanitarian work. Her nonprofit, Al Otro Lado, provides pro bono legal services to migrants. She says BAM is helping Trump's narrative that the caravan is an invasion.
That is not solidarity. That's exploitation. They are exploiting migrants to make a political point.
Karen Perez came from Nicaragua with her 4 children. She says the conflicting messages from Americans have been confusing. She's been on a weeks-long wait list to apply for asylum in the U.S.
Sometimes I get hopeless thinking I'll say yes to the people telling me to jump. But no, what am I, crazy? I'm not crazy. I'm going to wait.
She says she wants to do things the legal way and doesn't want to risk her children's lives when she's come this far to escape danger. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, 26 days into the shutdown, House Democrats call for postponing the president's State of the Union address. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Suicide prevention efforts on the Coronado Bridge are moving forward. Caltrans is expected to begin installing small 4-inch spikes on the bridge walls later this month. The agency is still working to develop a more permanent barrier. Hundreds have died as a result of jumping from the bridge since it opened in the 1960s. Pacific Gas and Electric is being sued by the county that was devastated by November's Camp Fire. Butte County filed the lawsuit just one day after PG&E filed for bankruptcy. The county is home to Paradise, California, where 86 people died in the fire. Thousands of homes were destroyed. The county is suing for loss of property, wages, and business profits, but did not include an exact dollar figure. As PG&E moves forward with bankruptcy, California lawmakers say wildfire victims must be protected ahead of shareholders. But as Capital Public Radio Biddy Adler reports, they're not yet sure how or if they can ensure that outcome.
As much as lawmakers want to ensure ratepayers and wildfire victims get first dibs on PG&E's limited money, Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon acknowledges the state's power in federal bankruptcy court might be limited.
We're not sure what our tools are, what we're capable of, but we're certainly going to aim in that direction.
Republican Assemblyman James Gallagher, who represents the Camp Fire area, says PG&E had better come out of bankruptcy in very different shape.
I think there should be strong considerations to either a substantial reorganization of PG&E or a breakup.
Lawmakers floated selling off the gas arm of PG&E and exploring whether to break it up into local municipal utilities similar to those in Los Angeles and Sacramento. At the state capitol, I'm Ben Adler.
San Diego will get one more day of rain before sunshine returns this weekend. Regina Miller has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, we've got some heavier rain right now, central and northern California. Showery weather down around L.A. towards San Diego, where we've had these showers across the area. And as we go from tonight through tomorrow afternoon, we do have a flash flood watch in effect, but it's to the north of the area here where there could be maybe an inch to an inch and a half of rainfall there. Tonight in the metro areas, we are going to become mostly cloudy. Our temperature is 59 degrees. And into San Diego here, we're at 59. Into Borrego Springs, we're at 51 degrees. We have some increase in clouds there at 51 degrees. Now look what happens for Thursday. Starting off at 6 in the morning, we've got the clouds around. Then the rain pushing in from the north here, Camp Pendleton down towards Oceanside, and that is around noontime on Thursday. Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock, we have La Jolla down towards San Diego. We've got the rainfall, and that's going to be around even into the evening hours. As we go through the overnight, Thursday night into Friday, we'll keep the clouds around, but those will clear out as we go through the afternoon on Friday. And the heaviest rainfall is going to be in those areas where we do have the flash flood watches in effect. Tomorrow's forecast in San Diego, we are going to see rain here. San Diego on up towards Oceanside, periods of rain in Borrego Springs as well, with temperatures in the 60s. And then for Friday, becoming partly sunny after some morning clouds, 64 degrees along the coast. Warming up for Saturday with sunny skies. Inland, we've got periods of rain for your Thursday at 63, Friday, partly sunny. 65, warmer with that sunshine on Saturday. Mountain locations, breezy with rain, and you're only in the upper 40s. For Friday, becoming partly sunny, sunny and breezy on Saturday. And in the desert areas, periods of rain as well on Thursday. Friday, clouds early giving way to some sunshine and nice. Sunny and nice for Saturday with a temperature of 73 degrees. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News.
San Diego's marijuana retailers have been in operation for a year. Today, we spoke with Jessica McElfresh. She's the president of the San Diego Association of Cannabis Professionals. She gave us some insight on the progress in the industry and what to expect in 2019.
People need to remember, the city of San Diego was the first jurisdiction in the state of California, I believe, to say, yes, we're going to license and permit adult use retail. They basically grafted that onto their existing medical cannabis ordinance, but we were pretty Johnny on the spot. Beyond that, we have seen more jurisdictions locally begin to accept and regulate these businesses. Chula Vista, which is also one of the largest cities in this county. La Mesa's made tremendous progress. We've had even some openings in Lemon Grove. We do have Oceanside regulating, and actually will be the first jurisdiction locally to regulate a form of greenhouse cultivation in the rural areas. So we have a lot of exciting things happening locally. I think that this county may have in the past been perceived as being a little behind on cannabis, but in the past few years, I actually think this county's become a leader statewide. Goals for 2019 would include continuing what we're doing, which is adjusting to the state's regulations as well as local regulation and working within them, and I hope ultimately working with regulators to determine what regulations perhaps need to be changed or adjusted so that we promote public safety, promote transparency, and also make things as workable for the businesses as possible. Banking is not a new challenge. Before it was a challenge for the adult use cannabis businesses, it was a challenge for the medical cannabis businesses. That has continued. We're continuing to work on it, and it's a problem in other states too. This is not a problem unique to California. In terms of solutions, there has been discussion of a state bank. However, I have to somewhat agree with the conclusion that our now former Treasurer John Chang arrived at, which is that could take a very long time, it could be very expensive, and perhaps what we need to do is instead have California join with the industry in trying to promote a solution at the federal level.
KPBS Midday Edition is doing a series of interviews this week on marijuana legalization. You can listen online at kpbs.org. The beer industry is seeing a slowdown due to the government shutdown. AP reporter Carrie Antelfinger visited a brewery in Arizona which might have to dump its product if the government doesn't reopen soon.
This is one of our merch coolers where we do sell our cans to go.
New brews. They are the craft brewery's bread and butter in a very competitive industry.
We want to be next to the best brewers, and we want new, cool beers.
But the partial government shutdown, the longest in history, is also slowing down the flow of new beers. That's because the federal agency that regulates alcohol production and distribution isn't open to approve labels for the bottles and cans.
Well, we need that thing moving. And there's a lot of breweries like us. Right now, the customers coming in saying, what else do you have? Can I try something new?
The Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau is also responsible for approving new breweries and new ingredients for new beers. While most states just require the federal label approval to sell out of state, Arizona requires it even to sell within the state. Arizona Wilderness Brewing currently has 4 beers sitting in the queue, and it will be another dozen or more by the end of the month. They've already produced some of the beer, and it may need to be dumped if it sits too long.
I could be out $25,000 to $50,000 pretty quickly with beer just sitting around. And for us to not get label approval on time, it also means that we can't plan ahead, and that's something that breweries have to do very well.
Plus, they are opening a $3 million new location in Phoenix next month with no new beers to offer.
To go downtown and not be prepared for that and only have 6 beers that we have that have label approval would kill the momentum that we've built for the year building that place.
At Milwaukee's Lakefront Brewery, they make about 6 beers a year that need federal label approval.
They used to talk about old-time recipes. This is an old-time recipe.
Because of the shutdown, their latest My Turn Chuck can't be sold out of state.
I've been joking to people that if you're going to want a new beer coming out pretty soon, you're going to have to drink your brother-in-law's homebrew.
It's too early to say what the industry impact will be, but the longer it lasts, the more breweries that can open and the more seasonal beers that won't be available. And the longer the backlog of the federal agency.
I just feel that both sides need to come together, and I think if they all got a beer together and they drank one in a room, they'd figure it out.
One vote for solving the shutdown with a little beer diplomacy. Carrie Antelfinger, Associated Press.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.